Hi, and welcome to Early Retirement Roadmap, the show where I help you prepare for and thrive in early retirement. I retired at 55, and I think I did it wrong. Not financially, the money side was fine. I mean, the transition itself, how I left work. I think I could have done it better. And I want to tell you about the path I didn't take because if you're anywhere near retirement, it might change how you think about the whole thing. It's called a slow glide into retirement. Not working forever, not grinding until you drop, but intentionally stepping down from your career before you step out of it completely. Here's what I didn't fully understand when I left my job in December of 2024. Retirement is not just a math problem. Your spreadsheet might say you're ready, your portfolio might say you're ready, but your brain, your habits, your identity, the comfort of a paycheck showing up every 2 weeks, those need more time to catch up. I genuinely thought once the financial side was figured out, the hard part was over. I was wrong, very wrong. So in this episode, I want to walk you through the retirement path I didn't take, why it can be powerful, where it goes wrong, and how I think about it now from the other side. If you're planning for retirement or you're close enough that it suddenly feels very real, this is worth hearing before you make the leap. So let's start with how most people picture retirement, because I think we've all had the same image in our heads. It's a hard stop. Friday, you're working. Monday, you're retired. One day, you have meetings, deadlines, coworkers, structure, stress, and a paycheck. Then suddenly, you don't. You have time, a lot of time. And don't get me wrong, there is so much about that I love. I love not having someone else control my calendar. I love not having that Sunday night dread knowing that Monday starts another long, stressful work week. I love waking up knowing the day is mine. But here's what I didn't expect. We underestimate how big of a shock that transition really is. Because work isn't just income, it provides structure, identity, social connection, and routine. Work is a reason to get up and show up even when you don't feel like it. And for some people, and this one surprised me, work is also the thing that gives them permission to spend money. When you're working, money comes in. You may not love the job. You may be counting the years and days to retirement, but there's comfort in that paycheck. It's like a financial security blanket. Then retirement comes along and says, okay, now the money doesn't come from work anymore. It comes from that big pile you spent years building. And even when the pile is more than big enough, emotionally, that can feel completely different. If you're an early retiree, that shift can feel even bigger because you're looking at a much longer runway. Your money has to last decades longer than someone retiring at 65, 67, or 70. That pile has to stretch a lot further. That's one reason a slower transition can make a lot of sense. It gives your brain time to catch up with your spreadsheet. So what does a slow glide actually look like in practice? Because this isn't just one thing. It can take a lot of different shapes. Instead of going from full throttle to a full stop, what if you downshifted? Maybe you go from 50 hours a week to 30. Maybe you leave the high stress role, but keep doing some consulting. Maybe you move into part-time work in your field. Maybe you retire from your main career, but pick up a lower stress job that keeps you engaged and covers your health insurance. If your identity has been built around being useful, reliable, needed, and slightly over-functioning at all times, retirement can feel like someone yanked away your operating system. And that's exactly what caught me off guard, which brings me to my own story because I think it's relevant. I spent almost 30 years in healthcare IT, and that's a long time to build a professional identity around one lane. And I'll be honest with you, toward the end, I wasn't happy. I was ready to be done. If someone had offered me the same job with fewer meetings, I probably would have said, I want zero of this. But looking back now, more than a year into retirement, I do wonder if I should have at least explored part-time consulting. Not because retirement was a mistake, not because I needed to keep working, but because it might have softened the landing. That first year was rough, getting used to my new identity, figuring out how to fill my time, getting comfortable with the fact that no paycheck was coming in. I didn't regret retiring, but I absolutely felt the adjustment, and I wasn't prepared for how real that adjustment would be. Now, hindsight is always 2020, but that's exactly why I'm making this episode, so you can think about this before the career door slams shut. Now, let me give you three concrete reasons why a slower transition can really make a lot of sense, especially for early retirees. Reason one is the money buffer. Even a small income in the early years of retirement helps you to adjust from saving to spending. It helps you ease into retirement as you are still bringing some income in. If you can cover part of your expenses, reduce how much you're pulling from your portfolio, that breathing room helps with the adjustment. There's a big psychological difference between being fully dependent on your portfolio starting day one versus easing into it while keeping some income coming in. Reason two is the time problem. When you're exhausted, free time sounds like paradise, and it is for a while, but eventually all that time shows up, pulls up a chair, and says, okay, what are we doing? And sometimes the honest answer is, I have no idea. That doesn't mean you failed at retirement. It means you spent decades optimizing for work, deadlines, and obligations, not for wide open, unscheduled time. A slower transition gives you time to experiment before you fully commit. Try the hobby. Volunteer. Figure out which relationships still fit when work isn't the automatic glue holding them together. And figure out what actually gives you energy outside of a job. Because retirement shouldn't just be an escape from work. It should be a move toward something. That something doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be a quieter life, better health, more time with your spouse or family. But you need some sense of what fills your days. A slow glide helps you figure that out before you're fully committed. Reason three is health insurance. For early retirees, this one can be massive. If you retire before Medicare, you have to bridge that gap. ACA marketplace coverage, maybe COBRA for a stretch, something. But if you can find part-time work that offers health coverage or keep benefits while reducing your hours, that's a significant financial advantage. Not every employer allows it, but it's worth understanding your options before you walk out the door. Now, how do you actually make this work with your current employer? Because that's where a lot of people get stuck. And let me walk you through that. If you're thinking about negotiating a reduced hours transition with your employer, here's the key. You have to frame it around what helps them, not just what helps you. Walking into your boss's office and saying, good news, I'd like to work less and keep my benefits. That's probably not the best way to do this. A better approach is to think about what problem you can solve for them while getting the transition you want. Can you train your replacement, document critical processes, stay on through a major project, shift into an advisory role? I have a friend who had a senior role and basically told their company, I'm planning to retire, but I want to spend the next several months training my replacement and transitioning out cleanly. Now that was smart. It helped the company. It gave my friend a cleaner exit, and it turned retirement from a sudden disappearance into a planned handoff, which is much easier for an employer to say yes to. But, and this is important, once you tell your employer you're thinking about retirement, you can't put that disclosure back into a box. Some will say yes, some will say no, some will start quietly moving you to the side before you're ready to be moved. So don't have this conversation casually. Know your culture, know your employer, think about if this is likely an option or not. And know what you'll do if they say no, because once it's out there, it's out there. Let me show you a few other ways this can work. One option is a leave of absence. If your employer allows it, this is worth considering, especially if you're not sure whether you're psychologically ready for retirement, because maybe you just need a break. Because sometimes people don't hate working, they just hate being exhausted. Their current role, their current manager, the constant space, the always reachable pressure, and they mistake all of that for hating all work forever. A break can give you clarity. It might confirm you're really done, or it might show you that you still enjoy parts of work when it's not consuming your entire life. So a slow glide, if you can do it, would make a lot of sense. Another version is changing what work means entirely, not reducing your hours in the same career, but doing something completely different. Maybe you retire from the intense career and do something totally different, lower stress, lower responsibility, lower pay probably, but if you were already financially ready to retire, the income is a bonus, not the foundation. Now, what if you've thought about all of this and full retirement is still the right call? There's one more thing I'd strongly recommend before you take the leap. Simulate retirement before you do it, not theoretically, actually do it. Try living on your retirement budget for real. Track what you spend, see what feels tight and what feels fine. Take a staycation, but treat it like retirement, not a vacation. See how that rhythm actually feels. Use the time to answer questions that are really hard to answer from a retirement planning spreadsheet. How do you spend your time when nothing's required of you? Who are you when your job title disappears? Can you actually spend from your portfolio without feeling like you're doing something wrong? Can your marriage handle both of you being around the house a lot more? These aren't hypotheticals. These are real things that catch people off guard, including me. Here's the thing I want you to understand. It's one thing to model withdrawal rates and run retirement projections. It's another thing to wake up on a Monday morning and realize nobody needs you in a meeting, which, to be clear, is mostly fantastic, but also weird, very weird. I had no idea how much of my life had been organized around work until work was gone. The schedule, the rhythm, the sense of purpose, even the small stuff, knowing where you're supposed to be and why. A slow glide helps with that. It gives you time to separate what you actually want from what you're trying to escape. If you're escaping a bad job, retirement can look like the solution to everything. But maybe the real problem is that specific job, or that specific industry, or that specific boss, or the specific pace. If that's the case, a different kind of work might be enough, or a bridge, or a slower exit, or it might confirm that, yes, you're done. You're really done. And that's useful information too. Before you make retirement a light switch, ask whether it should be, well, a dimmer switch. And with that, let me bring this home. If we were having this conversation in person, and honestly, that's what I hope this podcast feels like, here's what I'd tell you. Yes, know your number, understand your taxes, have a solid cash runway, have a health insurance plan, but also think about the landing. Think about that first Monday in retirement. Think about what happens when the congratulations fade and it's just your life, because that's where retirement really begins. Not on the day you walk out the door, but in the ordinary days that follow. I didn't take the slow glide. I'm still glad I retired when I did, but can honestly say I probably should have thought harder about that transition. And that's one of the advantages of being on this side of it now. I can share the things I didn't fully appreciate before I got here. So as you get close to retirement, especially early retirement, don't just ask, can I retire? Ask, how should I retire? All at once, in stages, with part-time work, with consulting, with a leave of absence first, with a completely different kind of job. This is definitely a question really worth asking. Before we go, some freebies to share that are available on my Patreon, and the link is in the description. You can join for free and download these from my tools collection. First, you can download my 12-step early retirement planning checklist, a practical, easy-to-follow guide that walks you through everything from calculating your FIRE number to building a tax-efficient withdrawal strategy. Second, if you're on an ACA health plan or are planning to be if and when you retire, download my ebook, ACA Premium Shock Fix, 10 Ways to Pay Less for Marketplace Coverage all year long. This ebook gives you a clear, practical framework to lower your ACA premiums legally by understanding and controlling the income number that drives your subsidy, your MAGI, or modified adjusted gross income. And lastly, download my ACA MAGI estimator. It's an Excel template that can be used to estimate your MAGI for ACA health insurance. And you can also use it to keep track of your MAGI if you're currently on ACA health insurance to help stay within the 400% FPL threshold to maintain subsidies. And if you're interested in more help and while you're on my Patreon taking advantage of the free downloads, you can also check out the paid membership levels. There are options for additional tools, ad-free and early podcast access, and a higher level where you can ask me your retirement questions directly. Lastly, go to mikeupland.com for all of my media. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, take care and make the most of today.